Well, our top story today from the GatewayPundit.com. 2 Israeli embassy staff were gunned down outside of a Jewish museum in D.C. in suspected terror attack. The suspect has now been identified. We have new details and so much more here on the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. My name is Elijah Schaffer, and this is the Gateway Pundits Week in Review, where we cover the top 5 stories of the last 24 hours. Our top story today, Christina Lila reports that 2 Israeli embassy staff were gunned down outside of a Jewish museum. We now have the details. The suspect, tentatively identified as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, Illinois, has been apprehended. Rodriguez shouted, "Free, free Palestine," as he was taken into custody, according to law enforcement. Breaking, D.C. police have identified the man who has shot 2 Jewish diplomats as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez. He allegedly paced outside the Capitol Jewish Museum and waited for the targets to exit. The 2 were a couple who were set to be engaged next week, per reports. Nick Sortor reported. 2 people were fatally shot near FBI's Washington field office on Wednesday night, and the fatal shooting happened just after 9 p.m. on the 300 block of F Street, New York. According to reports, the 2 victims were Israeli embassy staff members. They were shot outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in a suspected terror attack. Fox 5 DC reported that the American Jewish Committee was hosting an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum when the 2 identified victims were gunned down. Double fatal shooting near the FBI Washington field office was a report that was said by the MPD. Now, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and interim U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeannie Piero are on the scene. I am on the scene of the horrible shooting outside the Washington, D.C. Capitol Museum, with U.S. Attorney Piero praying for the victims of this violence as we work to learn more. Fox 5 DC reported that the investigation went after a man and a woman were shot and killed near an FBI building Wednesday night. What we know, police say that the double shooting happened around 9:15 p.m. per the FBI office building in the 300 block of F Street Northwest. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a woman and a man who are both suffering from gunshot wounds. They are unconscious and not breathing. Homicide was called and the pair was pronounced dead. President Trump then weighed in on the fatal shooting, saying these horrible DC killings based on obviously an anti-Semitism must end now. Hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA. Condolences to the families of the victims. So sad that such things as this can happen. God bless you all, Trump said on Wednesday evening on Truth Social. Now, obviously, critics are quickly to point out, it is very, very coincidental timing with the push right now as Israel is preparing to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Perhaps some have suggested that this was a false flag attack and meant to, rally support from the American Jewish community and from the American government towards Israel's sentiments. However, critics of the false flag notion say, hey, that's anti-Semitic. I think Ian Hayworth of Daily Wire said anybody that's questioning this, he literally said, F you. I think it's fair to ask what's really going on, right? Before we jump to conclusions, we have to be careful because I believe that the blood of these 2 young people, which we do mourn, which is absolutely horrible, I do believe that it will lead to a lot more bloodshed, right? I do believe this is going to be used as a method to incite more violence. And, obviously this network, Gateway Pundit, is very pro-Israel. They're pro-Zionism. And, they obviously support Israel's right to exist. So there is that, factor. So I don't really want to say much personally, but I will point out the fact that, there have been a lot of bloodshed in this war, this Israeli-Gaza war, and there's been a lot of innocent people. It would appear to be targeted somewhat either indiscriminately or intentionally by the Israeli forces, the IDF. And so there's a lot of people who are actually celebrating this, right, as like a little bit of getting even for all the innocent children that are, the UN says I think up to like 14,000 babies could die in the next week if the aid isn't allowed in. So you have 2 very different camps talking about this, right? You have people who see this as getting justice, right? So if you're going to kill our people, we're going to kill you. And then you have, of course, people who are very pro-Israel, who see this as justification to commit more violence or even, collateral damage on civilians in the Middle East. And I think you only have most Americans are probably more like in the middle, like me, where they're like, okay, murder's wrong. Don't take your sectarian violence into our streets. You know what I mean? You notice that a lot of the problems in our country don't come from the European stock of our nation. It's like, Black, Hispanic gang wars and, Black on Asian hate, and violence, and then theft from certain communities, scholars and engineers. And then you have all this like Palestinian Jewish, hatred. But like, What about the European people who built this country? What about what we care about? I think what we probably care about would be, hey, please stop bringing your foreign Middle Eastern sectarian violence into our streets, into our capital. And we mourn the victims who were killed because we're like, we don't want people assassinated and murdered. Like, we're against the children being killed in Gaza. So because what? Because Israel's killing children in Gaza, are we supposed to then want innocent people killed here? No, we don't want that. We don't want to repay evil with evil, right? And I think what we really want is we just want, most of us Americans just want to stop these Middle Eastern wars, which are destabilizing the region. And of course, our countries, our Western countries, are taking on the weight of the refugees that are coming out of these nations. And it's really messing up our societies. I mean, Germany, the United Kingdom, all these Muslims coming to our countries, we don't want them here. And it seems like maybe there are individuals in Netanyahu's government, some of these more globalists that are out there that might even want destabilization. They want Muslims to come into our countries. They want terrorist attacks in our countries because they want us to support them financially for the rest of our lives. And it's a very difficult situation. You know, a lot of people have a lot of opinions on this. I don't really take strong opinions on this show myself. I'm just kind of voicing what people think. But again, I will reiterate. I would say probably if this network took a position, which they don't really, I'd say everyone probably leans probably pro-Israel. And that's probably the general consensus. And so where do you lie? I mean, this stuff is very sensitive. It's a lot of arguments going on. This is a very sensitive topic. And I don't want to take it lightly because we do mourn indeed the deaths and the murders of two individuals who, you know, I don't know if they're American citizens. I didn't research that, but I don't think anyone should be fearing getting assassinated on the streets of our country, especially in our capital. It's rather embarrassing, somewhat shameful. You know, we wanted diversity and multiculturalism. Welcome. That's what this is. It's another result of having multiple cultures in our streets. You know, we get to deal with their violent issues. Imagine if we didn't have to deal with any of this. Imagine if we didn't have any of these sides in our country and we just kind of had our own people and we just could live peaceably without all this bullshit, you know? That's what I want, personally. I want to get back to that, you know? But people say that's an extreme point of view. I don't know. It's not extreme for Israel to want that for their country, right? They want their own people and just everyone out if they can. And I think it's just the West. We need to kind of keep it for the West. Sort of a very, very, it's a personal opinion, not an official opinion of this network, to clarify. But, you know, you might think differently, and that's fair, as we all are Americans, and we have different opinions. That's the beauty of free speech. That being said, it's important to realize something very, very vital. You know, Warren Buffett just invested over $50 billion in energy. Billionaire Ken Griffin increased his oil investments by 150%. Even Elon Musk says that we can't live without oil. But here's what Wall Street isn't telling you. There's a smarter way to profit from oil than buying stocks, and it's a unique investment that lets you collect monthly royalty checks from America's richest oil fields. You're not buying shares in a company, you're getting direct ownership in oil-producing properties. And you can start with just $25. You can learn more about the #1 oil royalty play for 2025 at ElijahOil.com. That's ElijahOil.com. That's ElijahOil.com to discover how to collect monthly oil royalty checks starting today. Check it out at ElijahOil.com. The Oxford Club will help you invest off of one of the most natural ways that you can make money, which is natural resources. Check it out before it's too late. Now, that being said, we have a report about this that just went on. In case you wanted to get an update, you can watch it here.
See, this is right near the FBI Washington field office.
And Fox 5's Josh Rosenthal is there live on the scene right now. Josh, what can you tell us?
Well, guys, I'm standing at the intersection of 3rd and G Northwest. Come on up, take a look past this police line. We're told by police that this shooting, a double shooting, happened at 3rd and F, so just one block up, right where you're looking now. We are told that a man and woman were shot just minutes ago. A police officer came over and said that both of those people were killed. They were shot and killed. As far as what led to the shooting, what transpired, at this hour, we still don't know. Details are very hard to come by. As you said earlier, Jim, I can tell you we are very close to some very major landmarks just down that block, right by where the shooting happened. It's the FBI Washington field office. Come on over.
So one of the main things we have to talk about this is that, this is a very tragic event. And, again, it's complicated. That being said, a female they-them St. Louis tornado commissioner suspended after she screwed up and didn't turn on the tornado siren on Friday. Thank God we know her pronouns. Unfortunately, she forgot to pronounce to the rest of the country or the rest of the area that a tornado was coming. Listen, this is her right here. No one was present in the SEMA office in St. Louis City government when the tornado went through on Friday. Sarah Russell, bye-bye. You need to go. You've been incompetent the whole time. And here I thought Mr. Potato Head was a toy from my childhood. Apparently now he left the shelves and got a job in tornado preparedness. Imagine our founding fathers seeing this and like the people in charge of keeping us safe are a lesbian, a they, them, and some guy in the back. You know? That's wild. Like that's like no wonder why the Chinese are like mocking us these days. You know, I mean, I'm genuine. Like, look at that. And she's fat too, which is just diabolical. Like, I mean, I know a lot of you probably suffer with weight, so I'm not, you know, here to demean you in any way. I know it's a tough world, but like, have some respect, you know? Have some respect for yourself, genuinely. There are lines to cross, and that is not one of them. Well, they didn't want to take accountability for this. That's crazy. Who knew that they, thems, and some lesbians would be the last people in the country that want to take accountability for this? It's very dangerous, right? This is when we talk about DEI is DIE. It's like, it's killing us, genuinely, not through just replacement migration, which is wiping out the indigenous population of this country that built it. That is what defines what we are as a nation. But on top of that, it's also, you know, literally putting us in harm's way. You ever seen these people driving on the road? It's not exactly safe. Watch.
At the time of the storms to push on the sirens. We're continuing to hear concerns from people that there were no sirens heard in the city.
I continue to be concerned. I haven't had the full report at this time. We are looking into it. I could ask Sarah Russell to speak about it.
So what I can tell you about the operations of our siren system, and this is a decades-old process, is the SEMA offices are the secondary activation point. The primary activation point is the fire alarm office because it is in the dispatch center. It is manned 24/7. They have a full staff to be able to man that without fail. The SEMA office is very small, and the majority of the time we work closer to business hours unless the need arises, such as what we're doing now, or special events. A lot of that work takes us out into the community, so we aren't necessarily in our office space at all times. We do have a very small staff. I have received reports of people that did hear it. I've heard from a lot of people that said they haven't heard it. We are doing assessments on the system. I know that we're having some anomalies with the siren on De Bolivar at the firehouse there. I went and checked it personally yesterday. There's a tree between the firehouse and the metro lot at De Bolivar that is snapped over, and we think that it probably did strike the siren and is causing it to have some abnormal activities.
Was there some issues with staffing in the emergency management office on Friday at all, or?
No.
No. Okay.
Our full staff was working on Friday.
Were they in the office?
We were in the 1520 Market Street building for at the time of the storm. We were conducting a workshop with other partners, but we were working the storm in that capacity.
Can you tell us when the full report, when can we expect the full report?
So I'm having the assessors come out tomorrow. This is still a 25-year-old siren system. Parts are still difficult and expensive to come by. And certainly, you know, depending on what we find when we're out there, we may not have the parts in town. They may have to source them from a little bit farther away. But as fast as we can.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I'm going to read this real fast. So the accountability questions from Shoshana Stahl last night. Notice how it takes 3 times before SEMA Commissioner Sarah Russell finally admits SEMA staffers were at a workshop when they should have been sounding an alarm. Russell also blames the fire department, old battered sirens. It is actually remarkable that like that seems to be the issue today, is that there's absolutely no accountability in the government because there's nothing keeping the government accountable. And the only time we've ever seen the government really try to check itself with checks and balances is liberal judges trying to make sure that gang members from foreign countries that commit murders and rapes can stay in our country. You know, that's the only time I've actually seen recently the checks and balances go into play. It's like, oh, as long as we're protecting illegals, you know what I mean? Also, I will say too, checks and balances was the also judicial came in and the executive paired up together during January 6th to ensure that people who toured the Capitol would go to prison for 22 years. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I've only seen them come together to persecute Americans and make our lives harder. But I've never seen them like come together and be like, hey, you know, this woman needs to go to jail. Like, this is negligence, you know? Maybe not like, if people died, should go to jail for years, like several years, you know? It's like to tell people, hey, you can't take your job lightly. Like, you know, you're eating Twinkies. You should have been paying attention. Also, panicked Letitia James rambles through bizarre explanation for mortgage fraud, claims that she mistakenly filled out the forms incorrectly. Ben Q reports, I have the video here, but I will say, if you're going to accuse people of something very nasty and you've done the same thing but worse, I have no idea. I don't think you deserve anything but prison. I guess it's like the show, like, why can't people go to jail? Why aren't more people locked up? You know what I mean? They say that there's too many black men in prison. We need to equal out the prisons. Start arresting government officials who are negligent. Like, start arresting people who are corrupt and embezzling money. That's what I say.
As you know, we filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump and his family. We secured $454 million judgment against him, which is on appeal. The case is on appeal. I have no idea when that case will be decided. This investigation into me is nothing more than retribution. It's baseless. It has to do with the fact that on a power of attorney, I mistakenly indicated that I was a state of Virginia, but prior to that, I had indicated to the mortgage broker that, in fact, in bold cap letters, that I am not a resident of Virginia and never will be. And in the mortgage application, I indicated that I would not live in Virginia and I was not a resident. They just took the power of attorney and they're using that as a basis for enforcement for their investigation, when in reality, power of attorney was never used to determine my eligibility for a mortgage for my niece for a home in the state.
Well, you don't get to do lawfare without getting a little lawfare pushed back at you. Am I right? Am I right? Well, obviously we have this problem. You see all these female leaders. I honestly, look, you might be classical and think, women should lead, should be in positions of authority. As a conservative network, and someone who works at a conservative network, I can tell you the conservative position is that women are oftentimes submissive to men, actually, in the home. And that's actually a traditional, biblical, conservative standard, right? Is it popular? No, but neither is telling people that abortion is murder, right? A lot of things are unpopular, but they're true. Also, you're fat because you eat too much. It's not because you have a slow metabolism. It's because you just eat too damn much. You want any more truth served to you tonight? Well, I can tell you that them is going to have a lot served on their plate tonight. Not truth, but definitely a lot of calories. But speaking of that, Letitia James was like she's been eating a lot too recently. Men are not leading, quite frankly, and we've given women too much agency in our society to live in roles outside of what God designed them to be. That doesn't mean women can't lead the family. While the husband's gone, doesn't mean they can't do jobs when we're at war. What it means is that men really need to lead and take authority, and there needs to be a clear hierarchy. Now, a lot of the reason why men are not leading is because they have low testosterone levels. They have no drive, right? Maybe their lifestyle choices, diet, exposure to environmental toxins. This decline can result in persistent fatigue, diminished strength, reduced libido, mood swings, and an overall loss of vitality, keeping you from feeling like your best self. Take control of your vitality with Man's Edge from Neutronics Labs, the natural solution to support healthy testosterone levels. Now, Man's Edge is more than just a standard booster. It combines powerful ingredients like fenugreek, IGF-1, NO2, and more to help you feel your best. Studies show that fenugreek increases testosterone levels by up to 46%. Plus, unlike traditional powders and pills, Man's Edge offers up to a 98% absorption, ensuring that you receive the full benefits of these clinically proven ingredients. Even Frank Stallone has made it part of his daily routine to stay on top of his game. Join Frank Stallone and thousands of men rediscovering their vitality daily with Man's Edge. Sign up for your auto ship program today and save 50% in all your orders. Reclaim your lost youth and energy. Visit the link below now or go to tboostnow.com. Use code Elijah, ELIJAH, to save an additional 10%. Guys, this stuff's amazing. You got to use it. It's got the highest quality ingredients. Plus, it's the delivery system, the liposomal carbon delivery system that allows right under your tongue to go direct into your bloodstream, give you that bam, so that you become the man that you were made to be. That being said, it also turns out that an Unhinged federal judge shreds U.S. Attorney Alina Habba over arrest of Newark Mayor Ross Baraka. Christina Lila reports. We have the full video for you here. Check this out. This is, I guess it's a paper, not a video, though. U.S. Attorney Habba said today my office has charged Congresswoman McIver with violation of Title 18 for assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. It says here that I take my obligation as U.S. Attorney seriously. I understand the responsibility that comes with my position. I will work diligently to uphold the law and deliver justice for the people of New Jersey. After extensive consideration, we have agreed to dismiss Mayor Baraka's misdemeanor charge of trespass for the sake of moving forward. In the spirit of public interest, I have invited the mayor of Tour, Delaney Hall, The government is noting to hide at the facility, and I will personally accompany the mayor so that he can see that firsthand. Citizens of New Jersey deserve unified leadership so we can get to work to keep our state safe. The dismissal against the mayor is not the end of this matter. Congressional oversight is an important constitutional function. Representative LaMonica McIver assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement in violation of Title 18. The conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement official in the state of New Jersey, and it is my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties. I persistently made efforts to address these issues without bringing criminal charges and have given Representative McIver every opportunity to come to a resolution, which has unfortunately declined. No one is above the law, politicians or otherwise. It is the job of this office to uphold justice, impartiality, regardless of who you are. Now we will let the justice system work. You know what's crazy about this? Now, I spent a lot of time on the TikTok, or my dad actually calls it Tic-Tac. Tic-Tac. He says it all the time. He goes, so you've been just watching those Tic-Tacs? Yes. Sounds weird, but I'll just put them in my mouth too. So TikTok is an app for children, really, or for those of us that have never grown up. And what's pretty remarkable about it is that it is very left-leaning, right? So it's very anti-Trump. It's young, right? It's progressive. And it's crazy how, like, you see videos like Trump can expose the murders and the massacres that are going on in South Africa, and the media poises it as Trump ambushes South African president in disrespectful display of ignorance, you know? And it's like, he's trying to save white people, but to them, the whole goal is to kill white people and to replace white people in their homelands. There's this very anti-white universalist ideology. Now, who's behind that? Well, small group of people in the world known as the Democrats, right? Or the globalists. Some people even call them Frankists. What do you call them? You know, it is an interesting position to be in, right? So they seem to be involved in a lot of the interesting things in the world, and yeah, and I just noticed that, like, you know, this post has 85,000 likes, and it seems just like more BS, right? It just seems like everyone's got their own side. It's kind of just a game, and I'm sure it's just Trump supporters supported this, and you see liberals supporting this stuff on TikTok, and it's not really like, we're not really getting anywhere politically. I don't think we're really making any progress. I think we're just sort of universally just BSing each other and, you know, playing to our own crowds and not really making any, you know, advancement here. So I don't know. You know, it is what it is. You know, I appreciate it. Yeah. So that's good. Lastly, I'll just mention this. Another major GOP failure in a year of losses. Democrat win New York State Senate race in district where Trump garnered 77% of votes. Thanks so much again for watching. Watch the rest of that. Read the rest of that article at thegatewaypundit.com and join our mug club here. You can get one of these mugs by supporting us financially. They're very, very good and high quality mugs. Plus, you get the logo and the name on the back. I encourage you to grab them. They actually really are nice mugs. I'm Elijah Schaffer. Have a great rest of the week. As always, I'll see you next time. And may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.